Good morning. Welcome to the Coastal Bend Task Force meeting, New Year's Eve. This is our question and answer session. We have with us today Annette Rodriguez, who is the local public health director. We have Dr. Chris Bird, the lead modeler, the COVID task force. Tiffany Anderson and I'm Jason Lewis. We are with the Conrad Blucher Institute, and we're here supporting. I want to thank everybody for joining us today. Make sure that if you're looking for us online at our different social media outlets, at CBCovid is the handle that you want to look for. Today's question and answer session is going to be covering four general areas. The first is a miscellaneous. The second will be variants of the main strain. The third will be vaccinations. And the fourth, New Year's Eve celebrations. Director Rodriguez, you want to take the miscellaneous section?
Yes, thank you for that. So the first question I have is, have suicide rates gone up in 2020? And I wouldn't have an exact answer for you because 2020 is not over, and so it takes a couple of years to gather statistics. That's why we do the census every 10 years. But what I can tell you is that we believe that those suicide rates, we are going to see an increase because of everything that everybody has had to go through this past year with COVID-19, with isolation, with quarantine, with separating from other family members, loved ones, friends. And so we do anticipate seeing an increase in suicides here in Nueces County for 2020. The next question I have is how many flu cases, hospitalizations, fatalities have there been in the new flu season? So, and that's a great question. So I'm actually excited to say that flu season has been very low this year. But some years we start out with very low numbers during our seasonal flu, and then in January, February is when they actually start to increase. Some years we start getting flu early on. This year was not one of those where you have like less than 10 cases, per week. And so the numbers are very low. We're happy to say that. We're hoping it's because of all of the public health strategies that everybody has been utilizing. So very low hospitalizations at this point. As far as hospitalizations from COVID-related individuals, we're at 180, which is a really large number. You know, the hospitals are starting to get stretched thin again. Their staff are having to do a lot more with COVID patients. And so we really need to watch what we're doing carefully over New Year's because it's going to affect these numbers. And so we need to be very careful with that. Dr. Bird, do you have anything to add?
Nope, I don't know anything about the new flu cases, so it's all news to me. Thank you.
Okay, the next question I have is, the person says, I run a restaurant. How can I help my customers celebrate New Year's Eve safely? That's a great question, and thank you for asking that, because really there's a lot of ways you can do that. One is you could still serve curbside. People can go home, celebrate with their own immediate family members, so you could do that, and that would help. If you do have your restaurant open for New Year's Eve, you could make sure that they're social distance, that they wear a mask until the time that the food is served, that the tables are social distance. We've actually gone to restaurants and actually helped them to social distance their tables, the 6-foot distancing. If you have more room and you could distance them further away, that would be even better. We see in some of the restaurants that you cut off like part of the restaurant because you have like 75% capacity instead of 100%. You should leave that section open so you can separate these tables further apart. It should feel like you're eating by yourself, like you're just have a party there with your own family members. So if you could do all of those things for us, we really would appreciate it, and that would help to keep people safe going into the new year. And the last question I have on miscellaneous.
And I have some follow-up questions on that.
Sure.
Are there ways to that restaurants could increase ventilation, because I know that that's something that we're encouraging for people if they have a get together at their house. Open your windows and things like that. How do restaurants do that?
It's a lot harder, Dr. Bird, for them to do that in a restaurant because of the sanitary part of it, the aspect to it. We're always worried about insects coming in, getting on the food, and those types of things. And so, a lot of restaurants you'll notice don't have windows, or their windows are sealed shut. And so, at first I wanted to say open your front door, get some air in there. Now what you can do, and this is completely different, is you can actually have people eating outside. And I've been telling them that since the beginning. Even if they have a parking lot, they could have tables out there. It's a little chilly today, but they could have tables, they could have heaters, they could be very innovative with how they serve people and keep customers coming, but keeping them safe at the same time.
Right. I really like those outdoor heaters, and when you get to sit outside.
Or New York, where they have you go into the Igloo.
Yep.
There are different ways to do it. So.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. The last question I have are: do essential oils kill all viruses and bacteria safely and simply? And I really don't know the answer for essential oils killing viruses and bacteria. There's a lot of things that do kill viruses and bacteria, and they're on the CDC website. I know people are asking specifically, usually for COVID-19, but as far as essential oils, I wouldn't have that answer.
Right, and so this is where I can draw upon my PhD in botany. So essential oils are extracts from plants generally. There are a myriad of species of plants, and thus there are a myriad of essential oils. So invariably, some essential oils will not do anything to kill viruses or bacteria, and maybe others could be quite effective. Bacteria and viruses aren't just one form of life. They're very diverse, and so it's really unlikely that one essential oil would work on all bacteria or all viruses. And we're addressing this question because it comes up a lot on social media, and so we just want to let you know that if you are using that, you should do your homework, like Director Rodriguez suggested. Go to the CDC website. Okay, so that brings us into topic 2, and the new variant, which is known as B117. And from what I can ascertain, that's the name of its evolutionary clade. And it's also known as variant of concern 2020-12/01, because it was the first variant of concern discovered or at least reported in December of 2020. So is this new variant in Texas? And so the answer to that is it's probably in Texas, but it hasn't been confirmed to be in Texas yet. And so what you should realize is that the way that this variant can get identified is by sequencing the genome of the virus from a sample taken from a person. And in the United States, there's not a lot of this type of activity occurring. And so it's not, we haven't detected it in Texas, most likely because we're not sequencing enough of the viral genomes to have detected it. It's likely spread across the United States already, although how prevalent it is right now is still up in the air, but maybe not as prevalent as it is in England.
I agree with you. Also, we know that for the United States, we know we have cases in Canada, in Colorado, in California, and so it's just a matter of time, like you said, if it's not here already.
Right, and those cases, they're from community spread. Those people didn't travel, and it's unknown where they contracted it from. Or I think 2 people were working in a nursing home, and they might have contracted it from the nursing home. But it seems like the variant is out there, and it's something that we need to be concerned about.
I think the other thing is that CDC recently, they put a quarantine, for people traveling from the UK. So they have to have a negative PCR 3 days before they're arriving in the United States if they're coming from the UK. So that's actually another way just to help to kind of, keep this from taking over, if you will, very quickly.
Right. So not unlike the NBA bubble, where they were able to keep COVID down inside there. Now we're building a bubble over the United States to the United Kingdom, but it's already here. So it's good to stop it from coming more. But based upon what happened in England, it took 2.5 months from the first variant being discovered, the first sequence being discovered, to now it's at 60% of all infections in some parts of England. So it's something that we want to focus on. Moving on to the next question, what does it mean that the variant is 70% more transmissive? And so initially, there were a lot of reports that were not from scientific literature about this new variant and how transmissive it was. And I found a report that is going to go through peer review. It hasn't gone through peer review yet, so that means it hasn't been completely vetted. But reading it, when I read it, I can see that they did their due diligence. This is a real study. This new variant is 56% more transmissive and that's the best estimate. So it's not 70, but 70 is within the 95% confidence interval. It's 56%. Now what that means is we could take our transmission rate here in the coastal bend right now, which we estimate to be about 1.1, and multiply that by 1.56. So we immediately go from 1.1 with the old variants. This new variant would make the transmission rate be somewhere between 1.6 and 1.7, which doesn't sound like that big of a difference, but it's getting close to one person infecting 2 people for every person that gets COVID versus one person infecting one person. When we're dealing with exponential growth, these small changes in these numbers can be really big. So this is a major development that if the vaccines don't get out fast enough, then we'll be contending with a higher transmission rate, most likely.
Thank you for that. The other question that usually I get asked with transmission is virulence. It's more easily transmissible. Is it also more virulent? And the answer is, well, we really don't know. It's really the true answer. But what we do know is it doesn't seem like it's more virulent. It seems like it's just, as bad as COVID-19, but it's not worse. And so that's a little bit of good news.
Right, and I've done some thinking on this with what we know, and some new information has come out, and it kind of blends in with the next question. So we'll address this question, and I'll touch back on that and the amount of virulence in this new strain. So why is the new variant more transmissive? And there appears to be a twofold reason right now, or maybe they're connected. But one is that the new variant is better at picking the locks of your cells to be able to inject its RNA and then take over your cell and have it start producing new viruses. Another thing that has come out this past week is that people that are infected with this new variant, they have higher viral loads on average than the people that are infected with other variants. And so what that means is that they're finding more of the virus in people that have this new variant. And so that might indicate that some people that maybe wouldn't have gotten as sick, maybe you get a little bit more sick because there's more virus, and this virus is more efficient at reproducing itself before your immune system can take over. And that I'm laying out there as reading the information that I see that's rock solid, which is that there are higher viral loads in people with this new variant than with the old variant. And then thinking about that critically and thinking, okay, well, how would this affect you? Well, if you have a higher viral load, that's usually associated with more severe symptoms. And I'll kick that back to you, Annette, and see what you have to say.
while I agree, I think that the verdict is still out. I think we need to learn a lot more about this before, we lock in to it is actually more virulent. I would like to believe that maybe it isn't at this point, but I think we're going to find out here over the next couple of months very quickly.
Right, and I want to make sure that I'm being very clear. I'm not coming out and saying that it's really likely that this is more virulent or you're more likely to die, but I'm just thinking that it would make sense that maybe, instead of just like a little cough, maybe you have a worse cough. It's something like that. It seems like maybe there'd be some connection there to the higher loads of virus and maybe having a few more symptoms than you might otherwise.
And I think it's always been very clear with infectious diseases that when people have the most symptoms, that's when they're the most infectious. And so that is when they're carrying the most viral load, and that's when the virulence is at its peak, so to speak.
Yeah. All right, last question on the new variants. How did the new COVID-19 variant evolve so quickly? And so as far as I know, the first scientific paper on the variant was about how it evolved. And the authors of that paper, their idea is that it evolved in a long haul patient that was subjected to a lot of the different therapies that we have available, like monoclonal antibodies and things like that. And studies have shown that for people that have COVID for a long time and they have a really hard time kicking it and they start getting all these different treatments, that the virus becomes, their population of the virus inside their bodies becomes more diverse. And so these treatments are like selective pressures that are driving pressure for a strain or a variant that is more resistant. And in a person that's had COVID for so long, it allows a large population to develop with a lot of different mutations. And then you apply the selective pressure, and if one of those viruses has a mutation that allows it to survive that treatment, then it proliferates and then it comes back. And this is how you get into this cycle of somebody having COVID for so long. What that translates into is that COVID could evolve very rapidly in one person compared to the average background, where most people aren't these long haulers. And for most people, they have COVID for a week or two, and then it goes away. And the virus evolves more slowly when it's transmitted normally than it would evolve within a single patient that has it for a long time. So that's the idea about where it came from. And it did indeed, according to the paper that I read, evolve more quickly than other variants have evolved. But that doesn't mean that it will continue to evolve quickly now that it's going through like a normal infection sort of cycle. It's not believed that it will continue to evolve more quickly unless it gets into another long hauler. So any variant that's in a long haul COVID patient could experience rapid evolution.
I agree completely. I'm going to jump on into vaccinations, and the question for 2021 has been, where do I get my vaccine? So I'm going to start with that, and what I'm going to say is that if you go to cctexas.com/coronavirus, we can show you a list of providers. These are individuals in Nueces County, even in the coastal band, where you can actually see who has vaccine. And so we know some of the HEB pharmacies, but the HEB pharmacies only have small amounts right now, 100 doses each. And they're actually still reaching out to the phase 1A, which is the doctor's offices, all of those individuals, the frontline workers. They're trying to get those groups in right now. So it's really the health department. You could get vaccine from us. You could get vaccine from the FQHC, Amistad. Also, you could get vaccine from a provider, your physician's offices, if they signed up. And if they didn't sign up, you could ask them, hey, maybe you should sign up, because it's a good idea for them to sign up. And we still need providers to sign up, because it's a community effort. It's not just one group of people doing this. And the reason I'm excited that this question is here is because there's a lot of confusion even with our providers. They think, well, I'm a doctor's office, I can only give it to ourselves and to our patients. That's not true. You can give it to anybody in phase 1A, and we've actually starting to pivot to 1B. And I say starting to pivot. The reason I say that is because if I only get 100 doses next week, I'm only going to open it to 1B, the small version of 1B, which is anybody 65 years of age and older. If I get 2,000 doses, I'm going to open it up to anybody in 1B, which is not only the 65 and older, but also if you're 18 years and older with at least one comorbidity. And so that's going to be a much larger group. And that's why I have to determine that based on the number of vaccines that we receive next week. The other thing that I wanted to mention to this group is that we don't get notified when we're going to get vaccine until the evening before. And so, I can't tell you where to go, where to register, when and where and why. The ones that can tell you actually got vaccine and they're waiting next week to give you the vaccine. I'm not waiting at the health department. When we receive vaccine, we vaccinate the same day. So we received vaccine a couple of days ago. We received 500 doses at 10:30. At 12 o'clock, we opened up at the Richard Borchardt Fairgrounds. And by 6:30, we were done with our 530 doses that we gave out. And so that's going to be what my expectations for my staff are. We're going to continue this as we get thousands and thousands of doses. We'll go into the next following day to continue that vaccination process. But we're registering people there at the site. We originally thought about pre-registering. The problem with that is that the only 100 people that pre-registered, some of them don't show up, and 200 people show up before them. And they're in line and they want to get registered. And so now we have a lot of angry people. So instead of that, we're going to do first come, first serve. They're going to come in the lines. We're going to try to count people. If we only have 500 doses, we'll count 500 people. And then we'll tell everybody from here back, we're done, we're closed, we have no more vaccines. But you can get vaccines at a multitude of places, even hospitals. I've been talking to the hospitals. The hospital vaccine is not only for the hospitals. If they've already given it to everybody and nobody else wants it in the hospital, and now they're pivoting to the 1B, you could actually get it there. Or if you're a patient, hopefully you're not, but if you're a patient of the hospital, and as you're leaving, they can offer it to you, saying if you want your COVID-19 vaccine and you're over the age of 65, or you have a comorbidity, we'd be happy to give it to you, and you could actually take it there.
Right. What was the name of that website again?
CBCtexas.com.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So the next question is, how many people have been vaccinated in the Coastal Bend? So what we have on our records, and we have records from the state, they actually show 4,500 people have been vaccinated. I know that it's really closer to at least 7,000. And so what I want to tell you with these systems that we have, they're not staying up with the amount of people getting vaccinated on a daily basis. So there's a lag there as well. So we need to be patient with these systems, because I know that this is millions of people's information that going into these M-Track systems. So that's what I have as far as Nueces County. Around 7,000 people have been vaccinated, and we've been allocated 20,000 doses here in Nueces County. What challenges has Nueces faced in vaccinating people? That's another great question. The challenges are some people don't want to get the vaccine. They're concerned. They're scared. They've heard so much misinformation. They're not sure who to trust. They don't know if it's a political reason, if it's a conspiracy theory. And so, what I'd like to say is that I was vaccinated. I see these COVID patients, firsthand. And so I know it's real, and I see the cases. I've heard the people, I've talked to them, desperate, struggling to breathe, and it is very real. And I hope for each of you in 2021 it never hits home. So you're constantly guessing, but I hope that you would believe us to know that it is a real disease, and that we would encourage you to get vaccinated, because the more people that get vaccinated, the quicker we'll get to some herd immunity. And I don't mean in a week or a month, I'm talking months, to get to 60, 70% either vaccinated or have had COVID-19. COVID-19 before we see some kind of protection and we can feel like maybe there's a little bit of sense of normalcy at that point. Maybe Dr. Bird could say something about if COVID-19 is real or not.
Yeah, it's definitely real. I had it. I mean, it was very mild symptoms, but you know, it's a real thing for sure.
Thank you. So the next question is, will there be enough vaccine for people to get a second dose? And the answer is yes. So the federal government has very clearly told us initially, if we send you 100 doses and you vaccinate 100 people, in the 21 days for Pfizer or the 28 days for Moderna, we will send you the next 100 doses to get their second dose. So don't worry about holding back any doses. That's not what we want you to do. We want you to vaccinate as many people as possible, and we will keep sending you their second doses as they're needed. So yes, there will be enough for the second dose.
Hey, Annette, if I get my first dose at one location, can I get my second dose at a different location? Or do you have to go back to the same location?
No, you can absolutely go to any of these locations that I was mentioning to get your second dose, as long as it's the same manufacturer. If you get your first dose at the health department, we've only had Moderna, and you see HEB is saying they have vaccines for Moderna, and you need your second dose, you can stop there and ask them, can I get my second dose? So we all have the same M-track, which means we all have the same recording of these vaccines. So they should be able to see you're in the system, and they should be able to give you your vaccine without a problem.
Okay, that's good. It's reassuring.
And so the last question I have, Dr. Bird, is I'm a healthcare professional, and my employer is not organizing vaccination. How do I get vaccinated? So again, hospital staff, they're getting vaccinated at the hospital, but there may be somebody in between jobs. They're a nurse, but they just stopped working at one hospital and they're trying to get a job somewhere else. They can come to us, they can come to Amistad, they could reach out to HEB Pharmacy. CVS will be receiving some soon if they haven't already. Walgreens, Walmart, any of these places, you can reach out to them and try to get vaccinated, but you're definitely always welcome to come to the health department drive-through. As we receive vaccines, we will open up and we will keep vaccinating until we don't have any more.
All right. Well, that's good to know. Okay, so moving on to the last question on vaccinations, and we try to divide up the questions so that we don't have the public health director shouldering all the load here. So here's a question. I heard that a nurse got COVID after being vaccinated. This is a major story in the news right now. Does that mean that the vaccine doesn't work? And that most certainly doesn't mean that the vaccine doesn't work. So here's how the vaccine does work, where you get a shot and then 2 to 3 weeks later you get a second shot, and then 2 weeks after that, at least with the Pfizer vaccine, then you have a 95% chance of not getting COVID if you're exposed to it. So you could very easily get the first injection of the vaccine and then get COVID. You could even get the second injection of the vaccine, and if it's within 2 weeks, you might still get COVID. And then even after those 2 weeks, 5% of people still get COVID. So just because there's one person that got COVID after getting vaccinated doesn't mean that the vaccines don't work. There's already been trials done with thousands of people. They've already demonstrated the effectiveness of these vaccines if given in the appropriate dosage and timing. Everybody should rest assured that you're going to hear about more people that got vaccinated and then got COVID. But that doesn't mean that the vaccines don't work. What you don't hear about is that 95% of people that didn't get COVID that would have if they hadn't have gotten vaccinated. So just remember that when you see a story about somebody who got COVID after getting vaccinated.
That also brings up, should I get vaccinated if I'm sick? And the answer is no. You shouldn't be out if you're sick, so you should be at home. So if I have COVID-19, I shouldn't get vaccinated? Absolutely not. You should actually be at home, get well, isolate yourself from others, don't give this virus to anybody else. Once you get well, they're saying you can wait up to 3 months, 90 days before considering getting vaccinated because you've got some immunity at that point to the virus. And so you could actually wait, and might be what you choose to do. But in congregate settings, like a nursing home, we have people every day that are in isolation or in quarantine. So for those individuals that are in quarantine, since they all work so closely together, they go ahead and suggest that if they're going to be getting COVID-19 vaccines to that facility, that the people that are in quarantine at the facility, they can still choose to get vaccinated. And I can understand because it's a congregate setting, this virus travels so quickly, you live with all these people. And so I think it's a really good decision that they made, and I'm glad to see that.
Right. Yeah, I think it's really important for everybody to realize that you shouldn't wait till you get COVID. That's not how the vaccine works. The vaccine is something that prevents you from getting it in the first place. It's not a treatment for COVID.
Right.
Okay, so moving on to our bonus category because it is New Year's Eve. Happy New Year's Eve, everybody. I thought rather than do our normal sort of this is what you should do, why don't we go around the people we've got here and ask, what are you doing for your New Year's Eve celebration this year? So, let's start with you, and then we'll go to Tiffany and Jason, and I'll finish it up.
Well, and out of all honesty, I got out of my office here. I'm at home, and I left my office last night around 8:30 or 9, and I said, are they, popping fireworks? And they were like, it's not New Year's Eve, Mom. So I don't even know what day it is. So, but every time I leave the office, I'm hoping maybe I get to watch, the ball dropping. I would love to be able to watch that if I can. Otherwise, I'm sitting there watching the WHO. So I don't do a lot. When you get over age 50, you just kind of enjoy just being at home. So that's for me.
All right.
Tiffany?
I will look from where I live to see if I can see any fireworks around, but I've been pretty isolated. Just not that much longer to wait, is what I tell myself, even though I don't know how much longer we'll have to wait. So, yeah, I would like to see the bright, shiny fireworks, but see it around a bunch of people.
Yeah, we're gonna, like Director Rodriguez, my wife and I are just gonna stay in. I got glasses that say 2020 or 2021 or something on them. That's the extent of our celebration.
Okay.
And we'll probably do that at 10 and go the heck to bed.
Even better.
Yeah, this is the coronavirus has absolutely no impact on our New Year's.
Yeah, we ordered some curbside champagne. We'll have some hors d'oeuvres, and we'll celebrate New Year's at home. Truthfully, I don't know why anybody would want to deal with all the reservations and crowds that normally come with New Year's. I'll happily go out on almost any other night other than New Year's. So this year will be just like every other year for me, which is spend New Year's at home with, quiet, with a nice drink and, somebody you love. And maybe next year I'll break out and maybe the big 2021 or 2022 New Year's celebration will be, big because we can come out of hiding and be safe and not worry about, perpetuating this pandemic that we're in now. So, yeah, obviously we're recommending against people going out and celebrating in public places. We're recommending that you don't have multi-family get-togethers like you normally would. And if you do, do all the things that we recommended for Thanksgiving and for Christmas. Open the windows, go outside, wear masks, and try to avoid either getting or spreading COVID. Okay, so that brings us to questions from the audience. Tiffany and Jason, do we have any questions?
So this one's about the variant. Can we expect that it will become dominant in Texas in, let's say, 2 months?
I think the answer to that is a probably. In England, the variant was first discovered in September, and it took about 2.5 months for it to go from the first detection of it to it being in 60% of the people. And so it's probably already here. We're probably, beyond that initial September phase that they were in the UK. So yeah, I think within 2 months we might expect that it would be dominant. I mean, for all we know, it could be here in more numbers than we realize because of the lack of sequencing that's happening.
Thank you.
I'm going to agree with you. The other thing is that I have people asking me if COVID-19's name is going to change to COVID-21. And the answer is no. So it got its name because it was founded in 2019. And so it's going to stay COVID-19. Now, if there's a new variant strain, they may name it, but it would be something from 2020. And the name doesn't change with the years. It stays COVID-19.
Right, yeah, that variant will always be COVID-19, even if it gets some sub-name.
Well, if it's not a variant, if it actually mutates to become its own virus.
Right.
I have another question about allergic reactions to the vaccine. So, is there a commonality in the people that have an allergic reaction?
We have only seen a few with reactions, and so I can't say there's a commonality. I mean, we've looked to see, what, if anything, do they have common comorbidities, and we haven't seen anything. But again, I've only seen two that had adverse reactions. And I think one of them was just really more anxiety, towards getting vaccinated. I think they almost worked themselves up, so the other thing is, it's interesting, and I don't know if it's because of anxiety or what, but they carry an EpiPen, which leads me to believe that they have issues with allergic reactions, because, a lot of people aren't going to use that EpiPen unless they really need it. And so one of the individuals carried an EpiPen and, had a lot of anxiety around it and felt like they were having a stomach ache and weren't feeling well. And so, again, I don't know if it was a true reaction. There is a website, it's called Be Safe, and it's a CDC website and an app. And everybody that's vaccinated is encouraged to get on the Be Safe, and we give you that when you go and get vaccinated. We give you that link, and you get on there, and then if you are having a reaction of some sort, a CDC representative actually will call you and talk to you about it. But we've also had people calling us if they have any kind of reaction. What we've seen is mostly that hurt, my arm was sore, it hurt for a couple of days, those are the types of things that we're seeing. I did have a lady yesterday that called and told me that she felt like she had a sore throat, she felt like she had some chills. So, and it was it was one day post being vaccinated. I told her, what we've read is you may see that for days 1 or 2, maybe even 3, but then it should completely go away. But got them on the Be Safe app as well with CDC, so that way they can have that communication and for statistical purposes as well.
B as in vaccine? Be safe?
B as in vaccine, yes, like B-Day, but Be Safe. So.
With phase 1B, will people need to provide proof of their comorbidities?
No, it's a pandemic. The goal is to get as many people vaccinated as possible. We're not really there to, to police who has a comorbidity and doesn't. When they list the comorbidities, interesting enough, they listed one of the comorbidities as being over 30 in a BMI, your body mass index. And so they're not really policing if you have, 2 comorbidities or you think you have one, We want people to be honest because we are trying to get the group that's the most vulnerable to getting sick and having more severe reaction to the disease. That's why you don't see certain groups listed right now. And people say, well, my group isn't listed. It doesn't matter if your group is listed. If you meet the criteria over the age of 65 or over the age of 16 with at least one comorbidity, you can get vaccinated. So it doesn't have to say, waitress, or it doesn't have to say, eye doctor. It doesn't have to say anything specific. You just meet the criteria, you can get vaccinated. The other thing people tell me is that their office isn't getting vaccinated, and they're wanting them to wait until maybe they have a corporate company that comes in to vaccinate. Well, that's really not their decision. They work for that company, but they're also a citizen and they're an individual. So if they want to go on Saturday and Sunday to get vaccinated, they can still do that.
If someone over 65 wanted to get vaccinated this week, could they?
Well, they could if there was a place where they had vaccine. So, like I said, HEB isn't really doing individuals yet. They're doing more of the first phase 1A. Next week, when we receive our large doses of vaccine, they absolutely can. That's the group we're targeting, over the age of 65. They don't even have to have any type of comorbidity. They're just 65 or older. Somebody came to our drive-through and they were 64, almost 65, but they wanted to wait because they said, I'm not 65 yet, I'm going to wait. So anyway, but yeah, 65 years and older.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I want to congratulate everybody for making it so far through 2020.
We only have a few hours left, right? First you tell me it's New Year's Eve, and then you tell me so far. How many more days do we have?
Yeah, that technically was the finale. Also want to congratulate Dr. Bird for getting Corpus Christi Collar Times Newsmaker of the Year.
Well, thank you, Tiffany. You all know that this is really a recognition for the task force as a whole, which involves people that are doctors and people that are students at the university, people like yourselves. We meet once a week to discuss the latest developments with COVID and go over the newest model projections. And it's really a large team of people that deserve that recognition, not just myself. But I humbly accept it and like to thank everybody for that on behalf of the task force.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
The whole task force too.
Well deserved. All right. Well, thank you, everyone, for tuning in. And I want to make sure that if you have any questions or comments, or you want to find any more information, go to any of the social media outlets and use @CBCovid. That's the handle that should be able to find us. Remember, Mondays at 3 p.m., Dr. Bird will be releasing the live task force report, and that will be every week going forward. This particular question and answer session will be normally on Fridays. The last two, because of holidays, we've had it on Thursday, but normally we're on Friday at noon. So next Friday, January 8th, look for us at noon and join us again. And in the meantime, submit your questions and we can prepare for them and answer as many as we possibly can. But thank you all very much for joining in.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Happy New Year's.